Assalamu alaikum students. Lastly, we read about the concept of thermodynamics and we read about some thermal system, surrounding, open system, closed system, dithermic wall, adiabatic wall. Now, after having the knowledge of a system, we should be now aware that there are some variables, there are some parameters associated with this very system and outside system also. And those very parameters, those very variables are called as thermodynamical variables or thermodynamical parameters. So today's our topic will be thermal equilibrium and thermodynamic variables. So once we are having some system where I will take here as a container and within that very container I am having some amount of gas within it. So once we are observing it, so it becomes as a system and rest the outside it becomes as the surrounding. So this very gas within this very container is having a particular amount of pressure, particular amount of volume, temperature, internal energy, entropy, enthalpy, or number of moles within it. So these parameters are variables are called as thermodynamical variables. Thus, the variables which are required to specify the state of thermodynamic system. These are what? The variables required to specify the state of thermodynamic system are known as what? Thermodynamical variables. So these are the variables. You can see it in the pressure, the volume, temperature, entropy, enthalpy, which we have to study later on. So these all constitute what? Thermodynamical variables. Now these very thermodynamical variables are of two types. They are of two types. One is called as the intensive variables, intensive, and another is called as what? Extensive. Extensive. Intensive and extensive. So what are intensive thermodynamical variables? These are the variables which are independent independent upon the size of system, upon the size of system. So intensive variables are the variables, thermodynamical parameters which are independent upon the size of system. For example, temperature, pressure, specific heat. Once you will deal with the temperature, I will make you understand. For example, if we are having a big bucket of water and it is at 20 degrees Celsius, and now from that very bucket we take a glass of water. From bucket we take a what? Glass of water. Glass of water, H2O. And that very H2O will be like this in the glass. What will be its temperature? Exactly, you are thinking right. It is again 20 degrees Celsius. So whether you are having, so this temperature, it is independent upon the size, because here it was a huge bucket, here it is simply a glass. So whether you are having glass which has been given water from the same bucket, both are at the same temperature. So this is intensive parameter which is independent upon the size, and you are having same as the pressure, and you are having same as the specific heat. So intensive parameter are the parameters which are independent upon the size. On the other hand, while you are dealing with the extensive parameter, extensive parameters. In extensive parameters, these now you will get those are what? Those are dependent upon the size of system. Like volume, if you are taking the water in small glass, it is the water will be having a small volume. Once you are be taking it in a big bucket, it will be having more volume. Heat capacity, as specific heat is an intensive parameter, heat capacity is what? It is defined as the amount of heat contained by whole amount of the mass. For example, if we are having we are having a glass in which we are having water at 20 degrees Celsius, and we are having a bucket which is again having the water again at 20 degrees Celsius. So here the heat content, the total heat content will be small as compared to total heat content here. But the specific heat for both will be same because it is water. Because specific heat is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass to unit degree Celsius. So specific heat will be same for mm, both for glass and bucket of water, as both are at 20 degrees Celsius. But the heat content, heat capacity, heat content, that will be different for glass, that is the small one, and that will be large for what? That will be large for the bucket. Entropy, that will be totally different. So these all form what? Volume, heat capacity, entropy, and energy, enthalpy. These form what? Extensive parameters. So we'll discuss about we today we discussed about the thermodynamic variable. Hope you understood it, the intensive and extensive parameters. Tomorrow we will discuss related to thermal equilibrium. Till then, Allah Hafiz.